Hello and welcome to part 4 of the Boosted Autos series on headlight modification. So if you've missed the previous videos, we showed part 1 how to pull the headlights apart to modify them. Part 2 I showed you how to build your very own Demon Eye modification for about $6. Part 3 I showed you how to paint the lenses, and now this video, part 4, we're going to put everything back together. So look, there's a couple of different ways that you can approach this. A lot of people like to heat everything up with a heat gun. Personally, I like to put it in the oven at about 75 degrees Celsius. And the reason I like to do it like that way is because I like to have a nice even amount of heat throughout the whole headlight assembly. We don't want to create any hot spots or risk melting anything, which is, I think, more of a risk when you're using a heat gun, because it's very easy to hold something in the wrong spot for too long, melt something, that kind of thing happens. So the first thing that's really important here, guys, and if you've watched the other videos, you'd already be aware of this, we want to leave this paint to cure for as long as we possibly can before we put things back together. So what happens if you don't let the paint cure? You're going to end up with a nasty fog on the lens of your headlight. Now that might not happen straight away. In most cases it can take 2 or 3 months, sometimes even up to a year to happen. But if that paint's not fully cured, the gases that are released from it are going to form a sort of coating across the inside of the lens that sort of makes it hazy and cloudy looking. You don't want that to happen. So I've actually left these sitting for almost a week now. I think we're up to day 6. So that's plenty of time for it to cure. It feels nice and hard. This particular paint, they say, cures in 24 hours. I left it for 6 days anyway. Some other paints, if you're using other paints, can take a lot longer. And if you're interested in all the information about the paints that I use to do this, make sure you watch the previous video, part 3, which is linked above my head now. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting things back together, putting it in the oven to heat it up again, and then we'll be melting it back closed again, showing you how to do that. So the first thing we want to do is have a look at this part. So in an ideal world, we'd try to leave that out of the oven so we're not heating up the relatively fresh paint. But what I don't want to do is risk having this glue, which is hardened now. When it becomes soft, it becomes very, very stringy. And I don't want to risk having strings of glue go across the visible areas of this once I put things back together. So I'm going to reassemble the headlight pretty much in its entirety before I put it in the oven. So we'll put things back together, kind of put them in their relative correct places, and then we'll melt it all back together. So the first thing that we're going to do, and be very, very careful not to get fingerprints on the visible parts. The first thing we're going to do is push our little lens, which is on the cover here. Make sure it hasn't got any fingerprints on it. Looks clean. And which way does it go? That way. So we're going to just push that back in, being as careful as we can. Put it face down so I can just push it in. Work it in, and it just clicks into place like that. No broken clips, everything is all good. So we want to check that we haven't got any dust on the face of this, give it a bit of a blow. I don't like to use alcohol or microfiber or anything like that to do this because you risk damaging the paint, creating streaks, that kind of thing. So there's a couple of little touches of dust which I'm just going to get off with the microfiber very gently. Brand new microfiber towel as well. For the most part, we're just going to give it a blow to clean it off though. One more little touch here. And then what we want to do is we want to lay the lens flat. So put that over here like that. Move this out of the way as well so you can see what I'm doing. Obviously be very careful not to get any fingerprints on the inside of that lens. Put this back together. Be very careful not to scratch the surface. Drops into place. So, and then what we want to do is just double check that we haven't got any dust or anything on the inside of the lens. You really don't want to have to clean the inside of this lens, so if you've been sensible like I was, you would have wrapped this up right from the moment you pulled the headlights apart so there's no dirt or anything on the inside. In my case it's perfectly clean, so that's all fine. Then we want to bring this part across, just move it up into its relative correct position, like so. Kind of push it together a little bit. Obviously don't force anything. Alright, that'll do for now. And the last thing we want to do is we want to make sure, if we've got demon eyes, we want to make sure we wrap up this cable as well and tuck it away so it's not in the way. So I'll do that quickly as well. So we'll wrap a little twist tie around it quickly, like so, and I'm just going to attach it to one of the screw holes here. So we've preheated the oven to 75 degrees and we've got a baking tray here with some paper on it. Now you might be wondering, why have I got baking paper on this tray? It's just a headlight. What this does is it stops you getting any hot spots. If you just put the light in the oven, like I've seen a lot of people do, you've got the metal slats on the trays inside the oven and they can create hot spots which can melt the plastic. So what this gives you is a nice, clean, even surface, and the paper doesn't transfer heat as much as the metal does, which is the reason why I'm using that. So stick it on the baking tray, and then we chuck it in the oven. So we'll leave it in there for about 20 minutes. Still feels weird doing this. There we go. So while the headlight's heating up in the oven is the perfect time to get your workspace set up so that you've got everything you'll need for when you're putting it back together. So I've got my rubber gloves on ready to go. I've got my screwdriver and the screws that need to go back in. So let's go and grab it out of the oven. Alright, so the first thing I need to do is put the screw back in this front corner. So I'll just open it up a little bit. And the reason I didn't put that in straight away is because I didn't want to have any tension on the paint surface up against the front. So put this back in. Make sure that the clips and pins go in place. Flip it over. Make sure these bottom clips close up correctly. 1, 2. Flip it back over again. You got to work pretty quickly because the glue does harden very quickly. So push that part in as well. What we need to do now is get these screws in here and here before the glue hardens as well. So, first one in place. Tighten it down. You can see it kind of pinching together as I do that. Go and tighten this one down as well. There we go, you can see it closing up. Now don't over tighten these screws because you will strip the plastic. We're just tightening it up enough that it pulls into place. There we go. Check that all our clips are clipped in. That one's good, and that one's good. And we're done. So we'll let it cool down and then we can put all of our bulbs in. All right, so that is both headlights back together now. Now, one thing I will just mention quickly is that if you don't have a good amount of glue around the inside and an even spread, then you might also want to add some silicone as a bead around the outside, so around the perimeter. So you can just use a silicone gun like this one here, and you just put the silicone in and you spray around. Now, I haven't done it on these lights because I was pretty satisfied that there was enough glue there still. And once you've done the silicone, it becomes an absolute nightmare to ever open up the lights again. It just makes it a horrible mess. So I thought we'll give it a try first. If they do end up fogging up, I can always dry them out and then seal them with some silicone if necessary. But for this case, not going to do it for now. So look, that's how you do it. Now, the next video, I'm going to show you the process of starting to wire everything up. As you may have seen earlier in the video, I've got this little control module here for the demon eyes. What that does is that allows me to switch them on and off. It's only hooked up to this one at the moment, but you can see that allows me to switch it on and off with a little remote, which is cool. So you'll be happy to know that I've also got coilovers, wheels and tires all coming. So we'll be doing installation videos for all of that stuff And yeah, wrap's on its way. I've got the front bar sitting behind the camera right now, which I'm going to prepare. I'll show a video of that pretty soon as well. So a whole bunch of stuff happening. So make sure you stick around, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you like the video if you found it useful. Hit that notification button as well so you don't miss the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.